You're going to love this one. Doug Ford now calling for Castle Doctrine laws in Canada. That's the right to defend yourself even with a firearm in your home after his home had a near miss. Let's get into this. Ladies and gents, welcome back. If you're new here, my name is Clyde. Welcome. Subscribe to the channel. Links down below. Let's get into this story. Now, here's Doug Ford. He's calling Canada a lawless society after masked suspects target his home. We'll get into the video in just a second here, but let's set the stage. Ontario Premier Doug Ford accused Canada of becoming a lawless society after 4 masked suspects attempted to steal a vehicle from his Etobicoke home early Tuesday morning. Police arrested all 4 suspects following an incident at Ford's residence near Lawrence Avenue West and Royal Oak. Let's just dox the guy. Everybody, guess where Doug Ford lives? He lives right near here, just in that vicinity. This is the time that it happened. Toronto Police Service officers spotted the masked suspects while approaching Ford's driveway. That's amazing that they happened to be there. Because what's the recommendations that the Toronto police have had recently? Let's have a listen.
To prevent the possibility of being attacked in your home, leave your fobs at your front door, because they're breaking into your home to steal your car. They don't want anything else. A lot of them that they're arresting have guns on them, and they're not toy guns, they're real guns. They're loaded.
Doug Ford, you should have just left the keys at the front door, right? That should have been your strategy here. No, instead, he's up in arms about this. He's not happy about this scenario. When officers stopped the vehicle, the suspect fled on foot. They're quickly located nearby. Police found a car key programming device and programmable master key inside the suspect's vehicle. 4 males charged include a bunch of people. You can guess what the usual suspects, right? And people who are already out on bail. Of course, that's just welcome to Canada. Now, Doug Ford is coming out and he's saying, we got to put an end to this. We got to put an end to this. And haven't you heard there was a guy just a couple of weeks ago, something similar happened, and, well, I'll let him explain it.
Did you hear about the guy that these thugs came up, ready to steal his car? They're all in their masks and everything. So I guess he was a hunter or something. He shot up in the air.
I guess he was a hunter.
That, by the way.
Sorry, he had to throw that. I guess he was a hunter. That's the only reason why you would have a firearm in Canada. Anyway, that's his explainer for it.
Shot up in the air. I don't recommend that, by the way.
Don't recommend that.
He gets charged. I got to find out this guy's name and number, and I'm going to hold a fundraiser for lawyer fees for him. He should get a medal for standing up. It's like down in the U.S., we should have the Castle law. Someone breaks into your house, and I know any of these people here, someone breaks into your house and they're coming after your kids and you're coming after your spouse, you're going to fight like you've never fought before. You're going to use anything that you have, be it weapons, baseball bats, knives. You're protecting
guns.
Your family. These thugs shouldn't be coming in there. Did you hear?
No, the thugs shouldn't be coming into your home. That's absolutely right. Now, for people who maybe don't live in Canada or you just don't know the laws in Canada, the reality of the situation is he's a provincial premier. Now, if you live in the United States, it's the state that determines the punishment for the crime and this kind of thing when it comes to capital crimes. And I can't say even the word what a capital crime is, but you know what those capital crimes are. Now, that Castle Doctrine, stand your ground laws, these kinds of things are not provincial jurisdiction in Canada. No, it's federal jurisdiction. You have the federal government overseeing this. So Doug Ford has no say, no purview over this. I mean, he could lobby the federal government for this, but it would have to change across the board. And this is the problem with having centralized government as opposed to having autonomy with the provinces. And this is why I've been advocating for more autonomy with the provinces. Maybe that's what we should be advocating for so that we could get Castle Doctrine in the individual provinces. I know Alberta is in the process of advocating for autonomy. Let's hope they win that. Let's really hope that they win that, because that could be a precedent that we could all look forward to. Now, let's look into the case of the guy who fired the warning shot. Now, I just want to start this off. If you're unfamiliar with firearms, you don't know the rules and regulations around firearms, it doesn't even matter if you're in Canada. This is just a absolutely across the board rule. negligent discharge of a firearm is a crime. It's absolutely. You do not fire warning shots. That's not what a firearm is used for. You have to understand the 4 rules of a firearm, and one of the 4 rules is, what are you shooting at, and is there anything in harm's way in the direction that you may be shooting? If I don't hit my intended target, would it possibly hit something behind? A negligent discharge or a warning shot is exactly that. You don't want to fire off into the distance, into whatever. That's unbelievable. But here's the news report about this guy who's facing multiple charges after firing a warning shot at attempted car thieves.
Vaughan homeowner is facing multiple charges for firing a gun to prevent his vehicle from being stolen. At around 4 a.m. yesterday, York police say 4 suspects were attempting to steal a vehicle on Pine Heights Drive. That's near Pine Valley and Teston Road. A 35-year-old man fired a shot during the attempt. He was located by police and arrested. Today, we're learning that he's now facing 4 firearm-related charges. All 4 suspects were also arrested and charged. One of them was on parole at the time of the incident.
Was he a law-abiding firearms owner, perhaps? Or perhaps not, even. But do you think he'll get the same treatment as the car thieves? I'm sure they're already out on bail, and he's facing charges now as a homeowner. But obviously, I'm laughing, but at the same time, do not fire negligent discharges. This is just bad idea in general. And even Castle Doctrine wouldn't protect you here. You're going outside your home to fire at somebody.
CP24's crime analyst Steve Ryan joins us live with more on these developments. Before we talk about the homeowner, let's talk about these 4 individuals who have now been arrested. And you got some information, and probably no surprise to a lot of people. A few of them were already out on bail.
No surprise.
Yeah, so we have a young person who was on bail, according to York Police, and is currently facing some very serious charges outside of these ones. And one of the 4 accused that was arrested, adults, was on probation as well. So it just goes to show you again that we've got repeat offenders alleged to have committed other criminal offenses. The guy that fired the shot, and appears
par for the course. Now, a guy that fired the shot
to be a warning shot that was discharged in the air. He's charged with discharging a firearm, possession of a weapon, danger to the public, careless storage of a firearm, and unauthorized possession. Certainly suggests that he was not a legal gun owner at the time of this occurrence.
So he didn't even legally own the firearm. Now, again, the rules in Canada for owning a firearm, for any of this stuff, are so stringent. Especially if it was a pistol, as Doug Ford insinuated that it was a rifle, as if he was a hunter. He must have been a hunter, and he had one of those rifles that we haven't banned from the country yet, which Doug Ford has not done anything in the realm of thwarting any of these gun rules from coming in, lobbying the government to ensure the protection of people's private property rights in Ontario. I haven't heard anything of that. We do hear stuff from some of the provincial premiers in other provinces, perhaps in the prairies and other locations, but not from Ontario. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I don't think I've heard much from Doug Ford. Now, this guy doesn't sound like he even legally owned the firearm, which, of course, you know, if for anyone who's an advocate for firearms ownership, you would say, well, it should have the right to own it. Nonetheless, he didn't own it legally. That's probably, again, it sounds like one of the other charges that he's going to be facing here.
How do you think that those charges against the homeowner are going to play out in court? Could this individual potentially be looking at serving some time behind bars? Or do you think that, some of the judges and JPs out there might look at this situation and see what's been happening in our community, maybe appreciate where his head was at firing a warning shot, but still, these are very serious charges against this homeowner.
Yeah, I'd suggest that the charges that this guy is facing with regards to the weapons, they are more serious than the attempted thefts and break and enter charges because it is a weapon. So I would anticipate that if this goes to court, that the guy that fired the weapon, and given the fact that he was charged with the unauthorized possession, most likely not a legal gun owner, that's going to be an uphill battle. That could be even more serious than the charges against this group of 5.
And that's really the sad part about this whole scenario is someone who is somebody possessed a firearm for whatever reason, brought it home, has it in his possession, has it for the sake of protecting his home. That alone shouldn't be an issue, but these are issues in Canada. Now, of course, I'm never going to advocate for someone who did a negligent discharge for not at least seeing some sort of repercussions for that. These are the rules of operating a firearm. I've already explained it. I'm not going to go through that again, but this is the sad tragedy of Canada. We don't have Castle Doctrine laws, which of course this wouldn't have protected anyway. But I'm glad to see that there is advocacy for Castle Doctrine in Canada. If somebody enters your home, you should have the right. You have the right, but the government is infringing on your right by passing laws that would infringe on your right to protect yourself. So it puts you in a precarious situation in Canada because your rights aren't guaranteed like they are in other countries where, the government shall not infringe on your rights. It really are a set of privileges that are given to you in Canada, and that's the way Canadians generally look at it. Is what are you allowed to do? What are the things that the government will allow you to do in order to protect your property, your liberty, your person, your safety, these kinds of things? They always say, when seconds matter, the police are only minutes away. So the idea is you should be able to protect yourself, and this is a right that we ought to not have infringed on us in Canada. Now, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about this. What do you think about Castle Doctrine? What do you think about people stealing cars and getting away with it in Canada? Does that just create an incentive to do it more? Well, I'd like to think so, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say in the comments down below. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you in the next one. Keep on trucking.